My name is Jeremy Hines, and I love Progress, Texas, because who doesn't love Progress and who doesn't love Texas, you know? So you gotta love it. Gotta love that combination.
It's Thursday, June 19th, 2025, and this is the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch, rapid response on the breaking news stories Texas progressives need to know. I'm Chris Mosier. Happy Juneteenth, everyone, and hope you're listening a little later than usual after sleeping in a bit. Progress Texas Advocacy and Development Coordinator Tatum Owens writes on the big day, quote, "No matter your race, class, gender, or identity, it is vital for every Texan to stand up for the liberation of and equity for their neighbor. Though the entire country can celebrate on June 19th, Texans honor Juneteenth with a special significance, knowing that its history is grounded in Galveston, Texas, where Black Texans finally gained independence 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was issued," unquote. As we mentioned yesterday, beloved Texas civil rights figure Opal Lee is recovering from a recent illness and won't be present at public Juneteenth celebrations today. The Austin American-Statesman reminds us why Ms. Lee is considered the grandmother of Juneteenth. In 2016, just 9 years ago, when she was approaching her 90th birthday, she began walking to advocate for Juneteenth to become a federal holiday, eventually reaching Washington, D.C., and gaining national support. Her decades-long work, including annual marches and education efforts, helped lead to Juneteenth's federal recognition on June 17th of 2021. Born in East Texas and Marshall and raised in Fort Worth, Lee, a now 98-year-old former teacher, has received numerous honors, including a new home built where her original was destroyed by rioters in 1939. She's lived through major historical events, including the Civil Rights Movement, and is today one of our state's all-time great treasures. Lots more to learn on Juneteenth, and a cool new source, Zara Amici at KERA in Dallas, writes on a new documentary detailing the legacy of that city's Pan-African Connection bookstore. The film centers on its deep cultural and historical significance to the Black community of Dallas. Through interviews with prominent Black leaders in North Texas, filmmaker Anthony Asota highlights the power and resilience of one of the city's most iconic Black-owned institutions in order to provide a roadmap for future generations to better understand their Black heritage. Worth checking out for sure. See the link in the show notes from KERA for a ticket link for a screening which is happening in Dallas on Sunday. And not to end our Juneteenth coverage this morning on a downer here, but we can't ignore an article from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram from yesterday. Lily Davidson there writes that a former Ace Hardware employee in Arlington, Devondrick Hartsfield, has filed a $1 million lawsuit alleging racial discrimination against Ace Hardware. Hartsfield, who is Black, claimed he was fired after reporting that his white manager had displayed a noose in the store's warehouse on Juneteenth of 2023, 2 years ago. He documented the incident with photos and reported it to HR, but the noose remained up the next day. Hartsfield was subsequently suspended without pay and never reinstated. His role was later filled by a person who is not Black. His attorney, Jason Smith, Progress Texas board member and a regular contributor to our work here, argues that the company failed to address a racially hostile work environment, saying, quote, "Mr. Hartsfield raised legitimate concerns. Instead of addressing them responsibly, Ace Hardware's management effectively ended his employment," unquote, and we will follow. Couple here that would indicate that Texas has become the toilet of one Elon Musk. The news this morning is plastered with images and video of a gigantic explosion at the SpaceX launch facility down at the coast at Boca Chica. CNBC reports that a SpaceX Starship rocket exploded during routine testing at the Starbase facility. SpaceX confirms a major anomaly occurred at 11 p.m. That's putting it mildly, I'd say. Local authorities described it as a catastrophic failure, which feels closer to the mark. Another launch is planned for later this month. Despite some successful launches, Starship has faced multiple fiery failures this year, with its massive size and orbital refueling needs raising reliability concerns. All personnel were reported safe from this explosion, but you can't tell me that a massive uncontrolled blast like this doesn't carry some degree of environmental concern. The locals who live near Muskville down there are regularly rattled by launches that feel like earthquakes. This massive and unexpected explosion on the ground last night at 11 p.m. must have felt like the end of the world. Still more from Musk as KXAN TV in Austin says Texas lawmakers have urged Tesla to delay its planned launch on Sunday, June 22nd, of robo-taxi operations in Austin. In a letter, they cited a revised state law governing autonomous vehicles, which will take effect on September 1st. The new law will require commercial self-driving operators to obtain DMV authorization, comply with safety and federal standards, and submit a first responder interaction plan. Texas State Senators Sarah Eckhart and Judith Zaffirini and State Reps Lulu Flores, Vicki Goodwin, Gina Hinojosa, Donna Howard, and Aaron Zwiener in this letter request that Tesla postpone that launch until the law is in effect to ensure public safety and trust. Fred Lambert at Electric, somewhat surprisingly, sees this move from Texas lawmakers as a godsend for Tesla and Musk, actually, saying, quote, even with the significantly reduced scope of the program compared to what Tesla has promised for years, and the fact that Waymo has been doing exactly what Tesla is trying to accomplish for years, it appears that Tesla is having difficulties delivering, and now they can claim that they have to delay the launch to please the regulators rather than because they're not ready. Let's see if Tesla takes the out or decides to move forward. For everyone's sake, I hope they take the out, unquote, and agreed. Finally, this morning, as the situation in the Middle East threatens to spin out of control, while Donald Trump is clearly enjoying the theater of the moment, which has brought him back to the center of attention, we took a quick scan through the Twitter accounts of the 12 Democrats from Texas in the U.S. House of Representatives for their opinions on the situation, and about half of them have spoken up so far. El Paso Congressman Veronica Escobar shared a tweet from Congressman Thomas Massey of Kentucky's War Powers resolution against U.S. involvement in the conflict, saying, quote, I signed on to this bipartisan resolution to remind the president that the War Powers Act made it clear only Congress has the authority to declare war, unquote. Congressman Julie Johnson of Dallas tweets, quote, Iran has consistently refused to back down on nuclear development, even as the international community has warned of the consequences. Its support for Hamas and Hezbollah, threats to Israel, and role in fueling regional chaos can't be ignored. Israel has the right to defend itself, but we're now staring down the possibility of a wider war, one that risks civilian lives and puts U.S. service members in harm's way. This is a moment for strength, urgency, and real diplomacy. The stakes couldn't be higher, unquote. San Antonio Congressman Joaquin Castro issued his own statement, tweeting, quote, no place, no city or community in our country has a monopoly when it comes to military sacrifice. Our service members serve because they believe in the values of our country. But that trust and goodwill has sometimes been abused by political leaders who sent our service members to fight in wars under false pretenses based on bad or biased intelligence. And as we witness the first days of the war between Israel and Iran, I feel we're on the verge of making the same old mistake in a new war in the Middle East, unquote. Austin Congressman Greg Casar tweets, quote, Netanyahu's reckless strike risks provoking a wider war and pulling in the United States. Trump must oppose Netanyahu's escalation and pursue a diplomatic path to deal with Iran's nuclear program. Trump must not violate the Constitution by involving American troops in Netanyahu's war without coming to Congress, unquote. Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia of Harris County also issued her own statement, which reads in part, quote, our nation has reached a bipartisan consensus that we do not want American troops dragged into another war. It is indisputable that we find ourselves in this situation today because in 2018, Donald Trump made the decision to withdraw from the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. This misguided decision weakened the ability of the United States and our allies to hold Iran accountable and stop its march towards a nuclear weapon. That's why it's alarming that President Trump may be considering using military force in or against Iran. Such an action would only risk a broader regional war, and it would be illegal without authorization from Congress, unquote. And Austin Congressman Lloyd Doggett tweets, quote, because of Trump's weakness and his firing of experienced intelligence and defense experts, Netanyahu recognizes he can push Trump around as he couldn't George W. Bush, who previously rejected a similar attack. War is always easier to get into than get out of. It would lead to the loss of vulnerable American troops, wreck the world economy with oil stoppage, and threaten Americans with terrorism at home and abroad. It could be longer and more costly in blood and treasure than the disastrous Iraq invasion that I long ago opposed, unquote. At Progress, Texas, we simply wish for peace, and we lament that under the current difficult and likely pivotal global situation, our beloved country is under highly compromised and incompetent management. Our mission at Progress Texas is to counter the conservative disinformation machine, which is funded by oil and tech billionaires and religious right-wing activist groups, all while fact-based independent media outlets increasingly face threats to their funding. While access to those outlets is frequently free, as it is here at Progress Texas, it takes listener support to keep fact-based independent media going. If you've come to appreciate what we do, now more than ever, we could use your support as a monthly contributor, and no amount is too small. Go to progresstexas.org/donate. Thanks so much to Steve Lemons, Darby Lockridge, and Susan Lofton, all of whom are on the team. We appreciate all of you very much. That's the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch for this Thursday, June 19th, 2025. Links to all these original stories can be found in our show notes. Progress Texas is a nonprofit rapid response media organization promoting progressive messages and actions. While campaigns come and go, we're the permanent home for progressive media and action in the Lone Star State. I'm Chris Mosier. Thanks for listening. Happy Juneteenth once again. Have a great day, and we'll see you again tomorrow morning.